Probably writing my speech and then delivering it. Like, there's a lot of adrenaline rush, like in the beginning and then the middle and the end. And for public forum, it's also, I guess, the first speech is kind of boring, but like the summary speech,
it's funner?
Funner.
Well, personally...
Funner?
Okay, writing your speeches, like, do you like writing school essays?
Sure.
Okay, you're weird. Anyways, writing your debate speech is like not much different than writing an essay, except there's like different parts to it, and it's like the same deal. You write on a piece of paper and then you present it. But I think one of the most important things to being a debater is knowing how to like actually make your like writing persuasive to the judge, so people will actually listen to you. Because when you write an essay, you're not really trying to prove a point. You're just talking about a topic that your teacher gives you. But when you're debating and when you're writing a speech, you're really trying to convince like these people.
I mean, like, I feel like my speeches are just like very repetitive, but all my essays obviously is going to be more refined. But I feel like the speeches are like more interesting in the sense that you get to present them in a persuasive tone. I think that's like really important.
What happens if you start like crying in the middle of your speech because how emotional you get? Like, not actually crying. It's
Pay those credits.
No, but like you can see the tears in your eyes. Won't that be like extra speaker scores? Oh, one thing I hate about being a debater is probably like the speaker scores, because if you think about it,
it's
like,
so arbitrary.
Yeah, like speaker scores, like it really depends on the judge's opinion on you. Like some judges, their average, for example, let's take PF, it's like 25 is the lowest and 30 is the highest. Some judges, they have an average of like 27 or like 26, and some judges have an average of 28. So it's really, if you like bump into a lucky judge, that you'll get really high speaks, or if you bump into a judge that's average is like 26 or 27, obviously if you give them the most phenomenal speech they ever heard, it's going to be a 28.8 or like a 29. It's not going to be 30.
Yeah.
But if you like go to a parent judge that has never judged a round before, well, or they have just not a lot and not really good rounds, and you give a really good speech, then they'll probably be like, oh my god, this is the best speech I've ever heard, and my average is like 28.5 or something, so 29 is like above average and 30 is really good, which is your speech.
Ironically, I feel like parent judges give like higher speaker scores. It's like sometimes it depends on like which parent judge it is. It's really random, but like sometimes with parent judges, they just like, oh, whoever has more emotion gets more speaker scores. But like,
I also don't like the judges who base like the win, like some judges, they take into account whether like if you win, then it's because like your argument was nice, your speaking was nice, but if you lose, it's because like your argument was bad and your speaking was bad, right? But some judges, they say, oh, your argument was mediocre but your speaking was really good, meaning I will inflate your speaker scores and give you a higher chance of winning, which is like really weird in my opinion, because I don't think speaker scores should matter when you're like judging, especially when you're judging a novice round. I feel like the content is more important.
Impromptu uses your brain a little more, like in the beginning, like the prep time of the round. However, like obviously researched rounds are still pretty fun. Depends on who you're going against. In the future, I'm probably gonna do a bit of both.
One of the reasons why I liked research topics was because I felt more safe in like my little bubble. Like I knew I had evidence to fall back on, but for impromptu, you don't really have like anything to fall back on, so the only thing that you're trying to prove to your judge is that your argument is better. But if you have no evidence to prove, then it's kind of hard. But we did do pretty well at our recent tournament, so like I like it more than before. I remember like going into our like recent tournament with like no hopes. Like I hated impromptu. I like didn't like it at all because I didn't like the pressure of thinking on the spot and the little prep time we had. But I guess it's more competitive in public forum where you do research topics, because you get what's it called, you have to do crossfire, and like there's like more engagement, while in CNDF you or like BP you just give POIs and you can take them or not take them. It's optional, so it's like
I feel like a lot of people join public forum because it's like easier to win awards at like some tournaments, for example, because like they have like just like if you win a certain record you can break, but like the thing is with impromptu you have to be like in the top 10 or top like whatever 4 or 5 6, okay, I don't know. Yeah, like,
I didn't know,
because like, you know, if you go to like Harvard, Stanford, they clear any 4-2 teams, but like for us it's speaker point, it's like how many you won and then speaker points,
that's
like
true.
top 4.
But I feel like public forum is like more of a debating style where you do more of like critical thinking, like not like strategies, right? You like strategize against your opponent, and I feel like flowing is really, really important in public forum, whereas in impromptu, of course it's still really important, but it's like less important, right? Because In impromptu, the speeches are like, I wouldn't say shorter because they're not. They're 6 minutes and public forum is 4 minutes. But in impromptu, people tend to like ramble about like one topic at a time because they need to impromptu their speech, right? And their paper, they have like point form notes, and they can't really just say, oh, for example, this house would ban zoos, right? Would be like, oh, this is animal abuse, and then the judge would just believe them. They have to like talk about why animal abuse is so bad, how it affects the status quo and stuff like that. So they'll talk about the same topic like again and again and again, and you don't have to catch as many things. Like in public forum, you have to like catch every single card that they refute against, so then you can use your cards to like, you know, refute against them. So like if you miss one, then on your flow there'll be a blank space, whereas in impromptu you can kind of just like, you know, like cover it up with like extra speaking
Like a
time.
large benefits of public forum is that since like you have 1 month to prepare for the topic, you can learn so much about a random topic, even if it is biometric data, which is like kind of useless. However, like even so, like when you're having a day-to-day conversation, I literally like find myself just repeating some cards that are or authors say that it's dehumanizingly wrong or whatever.
Wait, what? Okay, that doesn't happen to me because I separate debate from like my actual life. Like my debate life is like another part of me. Like with my social life, I don't really engage with like any debate topics. I try to avoid it as much as possible, so I keep like a healthy line between them. I don't want my whole personality to just be the girl who does debate. Like, so I try to like not talk about that stuff.
That's really infuriating. Like near the end of it, after a tournament, you're like, I don't want to deal with this topic anymore. But then at the same time, you get a lot of knowledge from it.
Actually, yeah, I think a really weird part about debate is that it's changed my point of view in a lot of like subjects, because one main thing is that you have to think from like both perspectives, even if you don't support, like for example, if you're on proposition and you don't really like proposition, you're still going to have to debate proposition. So it really changes your view. For example, if you're originally someone that's more sided with neg and then you debate proposition, you might be like, oh wait, proposition kind of makes more sense. And even if it doesn't, you still have to debate it anyway. So
yeah, I think like I'm pretty unproblematic on any issue, because like I feel like I have a really neutral stance if like on either side on any topic. I remember this one topic, like when I was in like intermediate or something, it was like this house would enfranchise all, meaning that they give anybody, like if anybody's capable of holding up a pen, they can vote. So, which is like, if you're letting children vote, then like you can come up with like, I guess, benefits of that. And I was on proposition for that, and then all my teammates, like they were like disagreeing with the motion, as like a lot of people probably would, but it was actually a pretty interesting debate, and our team ended up winning. So
in impromptu, I've debated a lot of motions that are really one-sided, and if you get the unlucky side, adapt to your like situation really fast, because your prep time will be running out and you're gonna be here sulking about you didn't getting the side you want, like, oh no, I didn't get proposition, I'm gonna cry about it. Instead, you should actually be generating arguments, which I think is the hard part, because I have like a very biased view of a lot of things. So debate has really changed my thought on that, and like it's made me think in a more like equal way.
I mean, you can still have your opinions and still argue for a different side.
It really depends on what topic I do, because like in general, the way I think, obviously it's changed stuff. Like for example, if I'm like arguing with someone, I'll think of like a lot of arguments against them quicker than I did before, because I've adapted as a debater to like think of refutation whenever someone says their like argument, anything that's possible. I feel like that's helped me in that aspect. And also for like topics that are really important or like relevant in my life, I guess it could change how I think about it and how the way I think in general.
The main thing is just like, I feel like most topics that I originally thought like had no supports for or against, like I feel like there's absolutely nothing that like cannot be debated about. Just to give an example, like in school, in math, we were doing this debates, which like when we were like, I guess, defending statistics, and every single stats was like defending their side. Like we pretty much had nothing. I feel like we still got away with it somehow, and we still got like some sort of stance in that debate, even though like the probably wasn't.
Weren't on your side.
It definitely wasn't. I think the way I think is basically just like I just have like the critical thinking develop my ideas on any topic that probably would not have been possible like a year ago. In the beginning, all of our really simple topics on like this house would ban zoos, like even I was struggling to think of arguments on that. I think we all were in foundations, but like obviously there's much more advanced and nuanced topics now.
I've learned to ramble a long time about one thing. So if you give me a topic, I can talk about it for like as long as you want me to, because debate, it like, for especially impromptu, you have to like think about your arguments, and since the limit is 6 minutes, you really have to like really extend your argument. As I said like earlier, you need to like talk about it for a long time. So I tend to ramble, especially when I'm like arguing. Like I talk about the same thing, but I change it up, and I do that in my school essays too. And my teacher like always like, you know, you're talking about the same thing, right? And I'm like, oopsie daisies, my bad.
Join debates.
I joined because my parents forced me, okay? But then I actually started liking debate. And I feel like if you don't like debate, you shouldn't do it, because it's like a commitment, and there's like a lot of tournaments to go to if you're actually trying to like get achievements.
Although I think that you also have to be patient with it, because I didn't know I liked debate until after my first tournament with her, even though like we did so bad. Like that was like,
I saved her. Oh my gosh.
What do you mean?
She hated
debate.
debate.
That's true.
She hated debate, and then randomly I didn't have a partner, so I'm like, hey, what's that girl from my foundations class that was pretty good? And I couldn't remember, and I was like, oh my god, I can't remember. And I'm like, started with the I, and I'm like, oh my god, Iona. And after I asked her to be my debate partner, and after that she started liking debate.
Yeah, join debates, but like go to your first tournament, see if you like it.
Oh, if you join debate, you should go to tournaments, because if you don't go to tournaments,
classes
there's no way you can
are
improve.
like not really useful compared to tournaments. You learn so much from tournaments compared to one term of classes.
Compared to one term?
I mean, classes are for the experience. It's fun.
VA is gonna
no, but like
fire you.
No. For obviously for foundations to pre-advanced is really useful, but from advanced to competitive, I feel like it's more of a hangout session, and where you get to bond with like a lot of other varsity debate. Well, not me, but like all the varsity debaters, you get to bond with one another.
It's just like for friendships, I guess. But if you're like a pre-advanced debater, then you should go to a lot of tournaments before you go to advanced. Because if you go to a lot of tournaments, you'll see what actually good people are. I'm not saying the people in the lessons are bad. I'm just saying that the people that are in your classes are very different from the people that are actually in competitive tournaments. And I know someone that was actually scared to go to tournaments because they didn't want to like be really competitive and compete against each other. But you should go, because it's good for like experience and stuff, especially with learning things. I learned how to flow at my tournament, not from the lessons. So that was fun.